Iran's missile cities are meant to be invulnerable, carved 500 meters into mountains, spread across every province, ready to launch for years. Yet the very videos Tehran released to prove its power also reveal fatal flaws: open storage bays, no blast doors, and telltale tunnel mouths. If found, they aren't fortresses. They're kill boxes. In 2026, that contradiction would be tested in the most intense air campaign since the Iraq War. On February 4, 2025, President Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum restoring maximum pressure, aiming to deny Iran any path to a nuclear weapon. By April, Washington had sanctioned the International Bank of Yemen, choking off funding to Iran's Houthi proxies. But the real shock came on June 22, when B-2 Spirit stealth bombers struck 3 nuclear sites under Operation Midnight Hammer. 14 GBU-57AB massive ordnance penetrators tore into the Fordow enrichment plant, buried 80 to 90 meters under rock. A Pentagon assessment 1 month later concluded Iran's nuclear program had been set back by roughly 2 years. The physical strike proved that even deeply buried bunkers were not immune. For Iran, this was the cue to fall back on its backup deterrent, a network of missile cities that began at 500 meters, well beyond the reach of any conventional bunker buster. Even before the nuclear strikes, Iran had been revealing its underground missile infrastructure. On March 26, 2025, state television broadcast a tour of a new missile city, inspected by top generals Bagheri and Hajizadeh. The footage showed rows of Gadrach, Imad, Khyber Shikan, Sijil, and Haj Qasim missiles packed into winding tunnels. A 2020 video had already demonstrated an automated railway system that transports missiles vertically from storage to launch positions, enabling rapid successive firings without cranes or transloaders. Then, in a July 2025 interview, IRGC Aerospace Chief Hajizadeh declared that such missile cities exist in every Iranian province, at a depth of around 500 meters. For Tehran, the message was clear: no matter how many bunker busters the US dropped on its nuclear sites, its missile force would survive, dispersed and deep, ready to launch back. Iran's underground network is more than a hiding place, it's the hardware of an explicit doctrine of survivable offensive retaliation. Unlike North Korea's tunnels, which prioritize regime survival, or China's underground Great Wall for border defense, Iran's missile cities are designed for sustained launch, survival, and reattack. Prior to the 2026 war, Iran possessed the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East and estimated 3,000 to 4,000 missiles. In February 2026, Foreign Minister Araghchi stated that Tehran deliberately limits missile range to 2,000 kilometers, enough to hit every target of interest in the region without triggering a global arms race. Keeping those missiles operation-ready required a steady flow of solid fuel propellant. After snapback sanctions resumed in September 2025, European intelligence tracked 2,000 tons of sodium perchlorate from China, enough to manufacture propellant for roughly 500 missiles. The automated railways, the depth, and the chemical supply chain were all calculated to guarantee Iran could fire multiple salvos, absorb strikes, and fire again, a true multi-front retaliatory machine. The doctrine faced its ultimate exam on February 28, 2026. After the largest U.S. military buildup in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, joint U.S.-Israeli airstrikes killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and thousands of IRGC personnel. The opening blows decapitated Iran's command, but the missile cities were supposed to guarantee a punishing response. For a few days, Iran did manage to launch salvos. But then, precision strikes began targeting the launchers themselves. U.S. and Israeli jets hunted the tunnel entrances and open storage bays that had been so proudly displayed. Within the first week, Iran's daily missile launches plummeted by 86%. The underground cities, once promoted as invulnerable, were being silenced not because they were penetrated by bunker busters, but because their access points and exposed layouts became kill zones. Why did the missile cities fail to sustain the promised barrage? The answer lies in the very propaganda that made them famous. The 2020 automated railway video and the 2025 tour revealed missiles standing upright in open caverns, with no internal blast doors to section off damage. Once a tunnel mouth was located, a single penetrating weapon could gut the entire gallery. Unlike a true hardened bunker with multiple layered blast doors, these cities resembled warehouses buried underground. The depth of 500 meters may protect from a direct overhead strike, but the entrance is still at the surface. The war demonstrated that persistent surveillance and rapid targeting convert a known underground facility into a static target. In other words, a hidden map that is no longer hidden becomes a death trap. When the campaigns were over, Iran's missile force was battered but not eliminated. The country still retained the Middle East's largest ballistic missile arsenal, and intelligence suggested many hidden sites remained untouched, their locations never broadcast. The 2,000 tons of Chinese sodium perchlorate had likely already been converted into propellant for new missiles, stashed in deeper chambers. What changed was the myth. Iran can no longer assume that depth alone confers invulnerability. Future investment is expected to shift toward even more dispersed, genuine hardened silos, or possibly back into mobile launchers that never stay in one place. In the year after, satellite analysts scoured mountains, identifying over a dozen new tunnel entrances matching earlier design patterns. The hidden map under every province has been partially redrawn with red X's, and every known missile city now carries a target on its door. So were Iran's missile cities invulnerable fortresses or kill boxes? The answer is both until they were found. The 2026 war proved that depth is no substitute for secrecy. Once an entrance is located, even 500 meters of rock can't stop a bomb from blowing through the front door. The network did survive partially, enough to maintain a residual threat, but the promise of years-long sustained retaliation collapsed in a week. The money that flowed into these underground cities has now become a liability, as their locations are mapped and mocked. Iran's future deterrence may hide not deeper, but smarter, perhaps in launchers that never stay still, or in tunnels that have no public